I'm Angelina King. Tonight, backtracking and apologizing. The Premier reversing his decision on developing the Greenbelt.
I broke that promise. And for that, I'm very, very sorry.
We dive into Doug Ford's bombshell announcement, the controversy leading up to it, and we'll bring you the latest reaction. Plus,
it would be great if he would turn himself in.
An emotional plea from a grieving father as police continue to search for the suspect in a deadly hit and run. And
if we are able to predict better, then we'll be able to design treatments smarter.
Looking into the future of healthcare, how Sick Kids is working to help in early detection of diseases while improving a child's experience. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with a live look at the legislature tonight on what has been a bombshell day in provincial politics. We're tracking reaction that's been pouring into the Premier's announcement today that he's reversing course on plans to open up the Greenbelt to development. Our senior Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley starts off our coverage tonight, taking us through Ford's announcement and what led up to the stunning reversal.
Premier Doug Ford walks across a parking lot in Niagara Falls, only to walk back his government's Greenbelt plan.
I made a promise to you that I wouldn't touch the Greenbelt. I broke that promise. And for that, I'm very, very sorry.
So sorry that Ford now says taking land out of the Greenbelt was wrong.
I'll be reversing the changes we made and won't make any changes to the Greenbelt in the future.
This stunning 180 comes nearly a year after Ford's government first announced that it was giving select developers the right to build housing in Ontario's protected Greenbelt, potentially boosting the value of their land by billions of dollars.
It caused people to question our motives.
For months, Ford has had little good to say about preserving the Greenbelt.
A failed policy, a flawed policy from the Liberal government. It was just a big scam.
Now, on this final day of summer, Ford is trying to put an end to what's been a season full of bad news about his Greenbelt moves. A scathing Auditor General's report.
This was a biased process. We saw what we think is preferential treatment.
An Integrity Commissioner's investigation.
Laws were broken around, giving special interest.
The resignations of two ministers, Steve Clark and Khalid Rashid. He stepped down after giving the Integrity Commissioner incorrect information under oath about his trip to Las Vegas in this swanky hotel with one of the Premier's top staffers and a developer whose land was removed from the Greenbelt, who's also a friend of Ford.
It shouldn't have taken Mr. Ford and his ministers getting caught making shady backroom deals with speculators for Ford to do the right thing.
Also today, news that the head of the PC Party fundraising arm, Tony Miale, sold tickets to Ford's daughter's Stag and Doe, including to a developer.
We have real estate speculators giving cash to a member of the Premier's family. We have a cabinet minister jetting off to Vegas for massages with Greenbelt developers. These are deeply concerning, and we're going to continue to ask questions.
2 cabinet ministers and 2 political staff have now resigned over all this, but not Ford.
In the next election, you'll have the chance to decide how I've done.
In the meantime, the RCMP is looking into whether there are grounds for a criminal investigation, and Queen's Park will resume sitting on Monday. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Niagara Falls.
All right, let's get to some more reaction now. Adam Kahn joins us live from Queen's Park with more on that. Adam, lots of people weighing in on this tonight. I'm just wondering, what's kind of the general consensus you've been hearing from the people you spoke with?
Everyone I spoke to was really happy with this decision. They felt like their voices were heard. But many people I spoke with also felt like there's a big lesson here for the government to learn, that decisions like this need to be more transparent.
More than a month ago, Ontario's then Auditor General released a scathing report on the changes to the Greenbelt, saying the government gave preferential treatment to some developers. Today, she says she's pleased with the Premier's decision.
The fact that there's been a second thought on this and it's been reversed, I think it's good for Ontarians to know now that, if there are any decisions made on the removal of land in the future or any changes, that it will be an open and transparent process going forward.
Premier's announcement brought a sense of relief to Ontario's regional chief, Glenn Hare. He demanded the Greenbelt lands be untouched. Now, he says he hopes the government learned a powerful lesson.
You got to talk with our leaders, and it didn't happen down here. There was no consultation whatsoever, and so I hope we learn a big lesson here to sit down with us.
The leader of the Green Party says the entire ordeal was a waste of time.
Instead of focusing in on building homes that ordinary Ontarians can afford in the communities they want to live in, on the land that's already approved for development, the Premier wasted time, money, and effort focused on breaking the rules and rolling out the red carpet for a handful of wealthy, forward-connected elite developers to cash in $8.3 billion.
Some are calling for stricter rules when it comes to keeping politicians accountable.
Well, we obviously need to change and strengthen the rules around the Members' Integrity Act. There needs to be consequences for breaking it. We need stronger oversight by parliamentary agencies on the behavior of our elected officials.
But even with the reversal, some say the damage has been done.
The personal numbers for the Premier have taken a hit, whether it hasn't necessarily across all polling translated into support for the party taking a hit just yet. So I think there's always a risk of being seen to be involved with a special interest when making a government decision.
And today, one of the developers who was selected to build on the Greenbelt released a statement saying, "We respect and agree with today's announcement by the provincial government to put the lands back in the Greenbelt."
So even with the reversal, some people are calling for a police investigation, and Doug Ford said he's confident that there has been no criminal activity.
All right, thanks, Adam. I'm sure lots more we'll be hearing on this. To other news now, India has suspended its visa services in Canada tonight, leaving thousands in limbo when it comes to their travel plans. This during a diplomatic crisis between the two countries after Prime Minister Trudeau's allegations of Indian involvement in the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Canadian citizen and Sikh leader in British Columbia. Dale Manakduk has more on the impact here in the GTA.
At this North York, India and Visa Passport Center, a notice on the door says services are suspended.
It's a huge impact on my life, and there's zero that I can do about it. I had nothing to do with this. I didn't kill anybody. I'm not trying to break off and create a separatist state in any other country.
Today, the government of India announced it was suspending visa services in Canada amid tensions between the two countries. Earlier this week, without presenting evidence, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau alleged government agents of India were involved in the killing of a Khalistan leader living in British Columbia. The visa suspension is the latest in a back and forth that's seen diplomats expelled.
The question is not about travel to India. Those who have valid visas, those who have other kind of documents like OCIs are free to travel to India. But the issue is of incitement to violence, the inaction by the Canadian authorities, and a creation of an environment that disrupts the functioning of our High Commission and consulates. That's what's making us stop temporarily this issuance of visas or providing visa services.
This man recently signed a contract for a job in India and needs an employment visa.
It might very well be too late. It might very well be too late because I still have not been given the visa and I've not paid for it. I've not given my original passport for processing. I don't know if that's an on-the-spot kind of thing.
Others like Gaurav Sharma just got his Canadian passport and has to give up his Indian one. Problem is, his sister's wedding is coming up back home, and now he won't be able to travel there.
I've already made plans to go back home. I've taken leave from work, so everything's kind of in limbo. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope they figure things out and they sort things out for us, because at the end of the day, we are the people who suffer, right?
And plenty more are. Mani Bahel has been trying to calm clients down all day who are worried about pending e-visa applications.
Usually they process the visas in 24 hours, but it's been 3 days. We're still waiting for a response. So they're worried. Everybody wants to go to India for a certain reason. Some people already have their tickets booked, and now it's an atmosphere of chaos.
It's unclear how long the chaos will continue. Dale Manakduk, CBC News, Toronto.
All All right, let's take a look outside right now. In downtown Toronto, we're sitting at around 18 degrees with a little bit of cloud. Colette Kennedy joins us now, and Colette, I describe it as just a really pleasant day we had before we head into fall.
Yeah, Angelina, you don't want to complain when our temperatures, our daytime highs are running 2 to 3 degrees above seasonal. Really nice conditions. But then I just kind of step out of the way and you see, oh, not that far away in southwestern Ontario, temperatures well above seasonal. Some of that heat from the U.S. Midwest making its way. Windsor 27 today, Sarnia 26. Just some nice readings in the mid-20s. We did have a very nice day, mostly through the day, partly cloudy skies and that breeze out of the southeast. A few isolated pop-up showers, still that possibility is there, but there's just the atmosphere has been pretty dry, so I think if anything we'll just see a little bit of that cloud cover. But then we have to look ahead to the weekend, and this system moving up the eastern seaboard, a lot of rain associated with that one. How's it going to impact your weekend? Going to have to stick around, and I will tell you all about that coming up. But I'll first tell you tonight, 14 for the low and 21 tomorrow with another very nice day on tap.
All right, thanks, Colette. Toronto's Ombudsman is launching an investigation into how the city handled the refugee crisis it experienced this spring. The watchdog says it will look into the city's decision that led to hundreds of people sleeping on the streets. Our Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has the story.
They were images that shocked and angered this spring. Hundreds of refugees and asylum seekers sleeping on the streets of downtown Toronto. Deputy Mayor Asma Malik was one of the voices sounding the alarm about the situation. She says the Toronto Ombudsman's probe is needed.
People who are fleeing persecution and looking for a safe place to be should be able to find it here. And it is unacceptable that in the city of Toronto that hasn't been the case.
The investigation will focus on a key decision to deny refugee claimants and asylum seekers space in city shelters not specifically designated for them. City staff instead referred them to federal programs which don't offer direct supports in Toronto. In a statement, Deputy Ombudsman Rima Patel says all people have a right to adequate housing that is safe and secure. Allegations that this right has been infringed, particularly with a group of people fleeing persecution in their home countries, is serious and must be thoroughly investigated. A resolution from Mayor Olivia Chow passed at Council this summer was meant to address the situation. It changed city policy to ensure no one is turned away from a shelter based on their immigration status. City Councillor Alejandra Bravo says she's eager to see the results of the probe.
I am not going to prejudge what the Ombudsman has to say. I did have questions at the time, and I certainly supported the Mayor's motion to ensure that we have a different policy which doesn't judge whether a person should have access to a city service depending on their status.
City spokesperson Lindsay Broadhead says Toronto welcomes the investigation, and it continues to take the refugee crisis seriously.
A year ago, in June 2022, there were about 500 refugees in Toronto's shelter system. There are now north of 3,500. So I want to assure the public that refugees have been and continue to be welcomed into the shelter system.
But outreach worker Lorraine Lamb says she has questions about why the city made its decision in the spring. Serving people differently because of their immigration status is wrong, she says.
I hope that the Ombudsman investigation will force some people to have to be accountable and answer to some of the decisions and the practices that have happened.
The Ombudsman's findings are not binding on the city, and his office has not said when a final report will be released. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. The family of a Mississauga man killed in a hit-and-run last month is making an emotional plea, asking the driver who fled the scene to turn themselves in. Investigators continue to search for the person responsible for the death of Jim White. Peel police say the 58-year-old recently died in hospital. Greg Ross reports.
I just don't understand why he wouldn't have stopped.
Holding a picture of his 58-year-old son, Bill White spoke to the media today about the tragic loss his family is dealing with. Last month, Jim White was hit by a car. Instead of helping him, the driver of that car fled the scene.
If Jim had stepped out in front of him, it's an accident. I think we all can understand accidents, but not to stop and just leave him there I don't understand.
This security footage released by police shows White walking across Dundas Street near Old Carriage Road. Several cars pass before he is hit by a dark-colored car. It stops briefly and then drives away. Not long after that, the situation got even worse.
Unfortunately, Jim was then struck while he was laying on the ground by a second vehicle. Jim was taken to a trauma center in life-threatening conditions, and I am sad to say that on Monday, September the 4th, 2023, he succumbed to his injuries at hospital.
Police say it was about 11 o'clock at night on August 18th when White tried to cross Dundas Street right about here. It's not clear where he was coming from or where he was going, but police believe he may have been heading home. White lived just steps away from here. According to police, the car that fled the scene was a 2014 to 2016 Toyota Corolla.
The Toyota Corolla will have sustained front-end damage due to the collision, likely including windshield damage. This includes witnesses or even a neighbor or an auto body shop, anybody who has any information or knowledge on the whereabouts of where this vehicle is or the identity of the driver of this vehicle.
Investigators are hoping someone may have recently seen a car with this kind of damage.
It would be great if he would call and turn himself in and get this thing settled.
Jim White's family members are hopeful that the person who was driving the car that night will do the right thing. Greg Ross, CBC News, Mississauga.
A man was fatally shot inside an Oshawa home early this morning.
Been determined that there were multiple people in the home at the time of the shooting. Those people fled the residence prior to police arrival, and at this time we're making an appeal for them to come forward.
Officers were called to a residence with multiple units on Albert Street in the Simcoe and 401 area around 2:30 this morning. The victim was a man in his 20s. He was pronounced dead at the scene. It's not yet clear if he was a resident of one of the units inside of the house. And the Hospital for Sick Children is unveiling a new style of health care. It's called Precision Child Health, and it will work on collecting genetic data to help in early detection of diseases, including cancer. Ali Chiasson has the story.
One of the best things about sick kids is our people.
In times of health uncertainty, wouldn't it be helpful to have a crystal ball?
We need to be able to predict better. If we are able to predict better, then we'll be able to design treatments smarter. And if we're able to design treatments smarter, we'll be able to intervene faster and we'll be able to change the course of disease.
That's what Sick Kids Hospital is aiming to do with the rollout of Precision Child Health. And it's about more than genetics.
It's taking everything we know about the child and putting that together to make a difference.
The wraparound care they're working to develop should help patients and their families feel cared for in ways that go beyond the clinical.
The physiology of the patient, where they live, where their environment, their nutritional status. Do they live out in far-reaching communities or do they live in downtown Toronto? How do we adapt their therapy accordingly? How do we develop more appropriate, more precise ways that we can actually start delivering this stuff closer to home so the kid can be part of their community?
The crystal ball motif was inspired by one of Dr. Malkin's patients, 13-year-old Addie Hill, who had been diagnosed with angiosarcoma.
As the news of Addie's battle with cancer spread, she told Dr. Malkin that he should really get his hands on a crystal ball.
She would go on to pick one out for him.
Its power wasn't predicting the future, but in believing in all possibilities ahead. And so within the walls of Sick Kids, a touching tale unfolds, a story of courage, resilience, and a bond between a determined girl and her oncologist.
Sick Kids fought for our daughter, and now we're just helping continue the fight, I guess.
I just think it's incredible. What they're doing here is going to change lives in the future.
Dr. Malkin still has the crystal ball that Addie gave him, and it reminds him of the Sick Kids mission.
In chatting with Addie's parents, they take a lot of solace in knowing that her legacy is going to sort of live on in this kind of programming. Yeah. Is that sort of fair to characterize it?
I think so. I think it, in the same way that I look at that ball whenever I'm in my office, which is every day, and it also gives me that sense that there's a sense of purpose. I guess I've always felt I have a sense of purpose, but now there's a really specific meaning. So it's a way that we don't lose track of where we're heading.
Ali Chiasson, CBC.
Welcome back. Let's bring in Colette now for our final look at weather. And Colette, lucky us, we're enjoying nice conditions until the very end of summer.
Yeah, I know. Here we are, right? The last full night of summer 2023. Tomorrow, the last full day that we have. And then the seasons change and we will be welcoming fall in on Saturday. But we're going to end the week and the summer season in style with nice conditions tomorrow. And then I was teasing earlier in the show about what's going to happen Sunday with all that heavy rain coming up the eastern seaboard. So we're going to get to that. Will you be grilling? Will you be outdoors and outdoor activities? The answer to come here. A little bit of the cloud cover, we're seeing that tonight, and I do mean just a little bit. Then we get into a lot of sunshine through the day on Friday, but we start to see this high, thin cloud, the cirrus cloud pushing back in our direction, the outskirts of this system coming up the eastern seaboard. So very tropical in nature. That is going to try to push back towards us. Ridge of high pressure kind of pushes back in that battleground. We pick up some of the cloud cover, but it was looking like maybe a few isolated showers into the Niagara region or eastern Ontario. At this point, slim chance of that, and otherwise we get some clouds early Sunday, and then we will actually see some clearing into Sunday afternoon. So the answer to the grilling question is a thumbs up. Yes. Overnight temperatures, you can see where that changeover is to the cooler readings into eastern Ontario, cooler nights, and otherwise not only double digits, daytime highs in southwestern Ontario closer to where our overnight lows, closer to our daytime highs where they should be. Tomorrow 21, a little more cloud cover coming in Saturday 22, and we see that early on Sunday, and then it recedes, and generally the temperature's sitting right there around a little above, a little below, Angelina, that 20-degree mark.
Thank you, Colette. Well, that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Good night, everyone.